Okay, so today we are actually tasting and reviewing a bottle you guys recommended I go out and buy next, and that is Russell's Reserve Single Barrel. So let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So that's right, today we are reviewing Russell's Reserve Single Barrel. This is actually the bottle that got the most commented on my video, What Should I Buy Next? Wild Turkey Edition. I'm going to link to that somewhere up here in case you haven't seen it. You can go check that out after this video. So basically, I've had a decent amount of things from Wild Turkey, I think about 5 bottles so far, but hadn't tried Russell's Reserve Single Barrel, which I know is one of their most highly acclaimed bottles, especially for ones that are more available. So super excited to dig into it with you guys. I did open this up and have a pour. Just wanted to give it some time to open up and really give a full, balanced, and fair review of it. All right, so let's just do a quick rundown of what's in this bottle. Russell's Reserve Single Barrel is thought to be an 8 to 10 year old whiskey. There is no age statement on this, but that's about the range most bottles come out at. Compare that to the Russell's Reserve 10 year, which is just the standard white label. Obviously a 10-year age statement. These can be a little bit younger, but they are single barrel and they are probably close to barrel proof. This is a 110 proof whiskey. Wild Turkey puts their whiskey into the barrel at a pretty low proof. The highest you can put it in at is 125, but Wild Turkey's sometimes around 107 to 115 in that range. So this is probably pretty close to barrel proof. It's the same mash bill Wild Turkey uses for everything, I think, which is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. Price on this bottle is right around $60. You can see it a little bit cheaper, but I got this at 60 bucks, so we'll call it 60. Again, compare that to the Russell's Reserve 10 year, which is right around $30. So this is double the price for a single barrel product, barrel strength or close to it product, but still pretty affordable and pretty widely available. You should be able to find this at most stores. You might have to go to 1 or 2 extra, but you can find this with a little bit of extra looking and effort. And of course, the last thing about it is it comes at the high recommendation of you guys. So let's get into the nose, palate, and finish. Before we do that, I do just want to say that if you're liking the content coming out of the channel, please hit that like button, please subscribe to the channel. Helps the channel grow and helps me know what specific content to make for you guys. All right, all that being said, let's get into the nose here. Okay, on the nose, Russell's Reserve Single Barrel. Yeah. Big amounts of vanilla and cherry. Good brown sugar note too. Maybe a little bit of that Wild Turkey funk. Not too much. Certainly not as much as like 101 and Rare Breed have. Good cinnamon note. Really nice nose overall for sure. And then there's an oakiness, an oaky caramel base underneath all of that. But really pretty cherry forward too. Really, really good nose. Inviting. Even though it's 110 proof, I don't feel like it's ethanol forward. It's still moving out of the glass, jumping out of the glass, but not astringent. All right, let's get into the palate. Cheers, everybody. Yes, very, very good. Very flavorful for sure. First 2 things I noticed were that cinnamon and cherry kind of carrying forward or over from the nose. Then some really good dark caramel and brown sugar, which is still lingering, by the way. As I'm talking, I'm feeling that caramel and brown sugar and almost even a maple syrup kind of come through the palate. Good oakiness and a good spicy baking spice, maybe a little black pepper hint, but really a cinnamon spice too. Really good, packed full of flavor and pretty complex and developing. Let's go into the palate one more time and I'll focus particularly on the finish and see what we get there. Cheers. Okay, so on the finish, as the palate develops, I mean, I got all that same flavor profile of cherry, cinnamon, vanilla, caramel. As the finish develops, I get more of that caramel and brown sugar kind of rising up. There's a good oak presence, touch of leather, maybe a little bit of tobacco too. But what really shines through is almost like a burnt sugar, burnt caramel flavor that lingers for quite a long time for me. Really, really solid whiskey, solid finish in terms of length and flavors that are hanging around. And one of those whiskeys you could just sort of sip on at any time, really, and just thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy. Good flavors, very solid palate, very solid finish, and inviting, rich nose too. Let's go back for one more sip just for the heck of it, see if we get any extra flavors, and really give this a fair shake. Yep. So there I got good cherry and a sort of good helping of baking spices. And really good warmth down into the chest. Not overwhelming, but enough to know you've got a really potent and flavorful whiskey running through your system for sure. One thing I will say about this whiskey, the first pour I had of it, I definitely noticed an elevated amount of black pepper sort of dominating it. Now that it's had a little bit of time to open up and sort of oxidate, that has shifted more to a brown sugar, caramel, and cinnamon spice, which is just really, really good. So I don't think there's really any downside to Russell's Reserve Single Barrel at all, at least this single barrel that I have. Everything is just at a really solid, really good level. I wouldn't say anything in particular is super interesting or one of the best flavors I've ever had, but almost every flavor that's coming through here is really solid and they mix well and are very well balanced together. Okay, so moment of truth for $60, relatively findable, Russell's Reserve Single Barrel. I'm gonna give a big, definite Hutch-worthy approval. Definitely will try to keep one of these on my shelves at all times, especially just because it's a really good representation, I think, of what Wild Turkey does best with that cinnamon, cherry, vanilla, caramel, maybe even a little funk nature to it. So really, really good whiskey. Definitely want to keep it on my shelves. And so to wrap up here, I just want to say a big thank you to you guys. Huge shout out to all of you for recommending Russell's Reserve Single Barrel. It's one I've had my eye on for a while. Thanks for pushing me over the line on it and making sure I went out and got one. Definitely worth the buy. You guys rock, and thanks so much for all the engagement and comments on the videos. I think that about wraps it up for Russell's Reserve Single Barrel. Great whiskey, and all I can say until I see you guys for another video is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.